Today is the 21st of July, 2012. It's good to have you with us once again, ladies and gentlemen, as the mess continues. We've had another shooting. Unless you've been living under a rock the last day or so, you would know that. What you might not know is that there's a lot of very interesting things surrounding this shooting, and we are in the process right now of collecting facts, some of which I want to share with you. There are a lot of things about this that just don't smell right, not the least of which, folks, we are 7 days, just 7 days before they're supposed to sign that International United Nations Arms Trade Treaty. Now, isn't it interesting how the timing of this thing works out? You know, it seems like Fast and Furious was supposed to probably culminate at this time. It was supposed to probably bubble to the surface and come to a head. But, see, those ATF agents kind of blew the whistle and kind of blew that thing out of the water. And so, well, hey, we had to have a new crisis. You know, it's just amazing to me that every single thing that happens today it centers around the Hegelian dialectic.
Certainly does.
Creating the crisis to facilitate the change, to condition the public into accepting changes that they wouldn't ordinarily accept. There were, at the very least, we should ask some questions here. Now, the shooter, of course, it happened in Aurora, Colorado, yesterday, at a movie theater just after midnight, I guess. The shooter's name was James Holmes. Fox News described this as the deadliest shooting since the Fort Hood massacre in 2009. You remember the Fort Hood massacre? That was the one where Nidal Hassan went on his shooting spree, I believe, and we chronicled that at the time. There were a number of oddities, a number of strange things that were happening around that, not the least of which is Anwar al-Awlaki. They said that Anwar al-Awlaki was advising Nidal Hassan. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't remember the name, Anwar al-Awlaki was the so-called terrorist that was having dinner with the Pentagon brass just a few months after 9/11. And they blamed 9/11 on Anwar al-Awlaki. We have a Fox News report that he was having dinner with Pentagon brass just a few months after 9/11, of which they blame him for. Okay, he had connections with Nidal Hassan, so I just thought it was interesting that Fox News brought up the Fort Hood massacre. But anyway, fast forwarding to today, this movie was called The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, Rises. Now, John in Tennessee had called me yesterday and asked me to look up the word Aurora. Now, it's kind of interesting, and this is one of those things that you have to at least put in the back of your mind, or at least consider. The town's name, Aurora, literally means the ancient Roman goddess of the dawn. Dark Knight Rises? Goddess of the dawn? I mean, are they telling, is this some kind of dark Masonic message? You know, ladies and gentlemen, we know that they operate on symbols. And this is the point. They communicate with each other with symbols. It's almost like it's a part of their religion or something. They incorporate these symbols into everything they do.
It's very true, Darren.
And here you have another example of this. There were 12 people killed. Now, I believe most of these mind control shooters, they usually shoot themselves. Okay, in this case, this one didn't. He was arrested before he shot himself. I'm assuming that he was supposed to shoot himself. If he had, the number would have been 13 casualties. Now, we've gone on and on and on this show ad nauseum about the number 13. It's a high Masonic number. All right. Now we're going to get into some more of that was kind of the more circumstantial stuff, I guess, the symbolism. Warner Brothers showed a preview of the movie Gangster Squad. This is really interesting, Nancy. It was a movie trailer from the movie Gangster Squad, many of which, now originally Nikki Fink of Deadline Hollywood was reporting that this was paired with this movie, The Dark Knight Rises. But Gangster Squad, it actually wasn't paired, but they did request, the studio did request that theaters play this with this Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises. Now, in Gangster Squad, it featured a scene with a gangster shooting up a theater. Now, what are the odds? And now the other interesting thing is, I went to try to find this on YouTube. And do you know that every single place on YouTube they have scrubbed this? It's blocked. At least it says it's blocked in our country. You can't. I encourage you listeners to go out and try to find it. Try to watch this on. Put in Gangster Squad trailer on YouTube. If you can find it, send me the link, because she actually linked to it. Nikki Fink did, and so I know the video was there, because she wouldn't have linked to a dead video. But it's been scrubbed. It's gone. You can't find it. Now, the question I got here, Nancy, is, was the movie trailer showing the gangster shooting up a theater, was it played at the very theater where James Holmes went on a shooting spree?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and in fact, it was widely reported that people in the theater thought that the shooting was a part of a publicity stunt.
Darren, is it not true that the shooter came through an emergency exit?
Yeah, it is true. That was actually reported in more than one place. One more thing, though, before we move on to that, there's one other thing that I wanted to address here. The Associated Press actually reported, Nancy, that the actual plot of the movie reveals parallels the real event, apparently. I'm going to quote here from one of their articles. They say, Bruce Wayne's drive. Now, Bruce Wayne, I guess, from what I gather, and I'm not into Batman movies, so I don't watch, but apparently Bruce Wayne is the guy who is Batman, okay? That's what I'm gathering. Anyway, they say Bruce Wayne's drive to become Batman arose from witnessing the death of his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, at the hands of a small-time criminal, Joe Chill, who shot and killed them after they had left the movie theater. Huh. Now, there are other parallels that they got in there, and we'll explore those if we have time. But now, as you mentioned, the Daily Mail out of the UK, and I think there were other media outlets as well, so apparently this is not exclusive to them, but they reported that the shooter entered in through a theater, he entered the theater through an emergency exit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go to your local theater and try to get in through an emergency exit. Try to do this. Daily Mail out of the UK yesterday, quote, "This is the trail of blood left running from the door of the Colorado cinema where a dropout PhD student killed 12 and wounded 59 in a shooting spree. An AR-15 assault rifle can be seen discarded at the emergency exit of the cinema, where 24-year-old James Holmes is said to have stormed into the theater and begun shooting," unquote. Now, this raises some very interesting questions, Nancy.
Indeed,
how did the shooter get into the emergency exit? Did he have an accomplice? Was there a second shooter? I think we have to ask
Who lets someone into a door that doesn't even have a door handle from the outside?
Here's the thing about this, okay? And this is one of the most disturbing things about this whole thing to me, okay? They said he had purchased a ticket, but yet he entered in through the emergency exit? Who was the ticket for? Certainly he didn't need it because he went through the emergency exit. Is there another shooter? Is there an accomplice? Why isn't anybody else asking these questions in the media? Some people are probably afraid of being called conspiracy kooks and nutcases. Folks, I don't really care about all that. I mean, the point is we have to ask the tough questions. And those people that understand how these people operate with their symbolisms and their Luciferian ideas, I mean, when you study this long enough, it sounds crazy, it sounds lunatic. to be talking about this until you've studied it long enough to see how these characters operate. There is a pattern. There's a way that they do this. By the way, I want to share with you, Dan at the network just gave me the link. There is a link, and I encourage you to go watch it now if you want to see the trailer. He happened to find the trailer to the movie Gangster Squad. I highly encourage you to go watch it now. If you go to Google and Google The Gangster Squad Hollywood Gossip. It was working as of 17 after the hour. Now, it's been scrubbed, as I said, from YouTube. I must have clicked like 20 links yesterday to try to watch this thing because I wanted to see what was in it. This is, again, the movie trailer that was playing at many theaters across North America as of yesterday, before yesterday, which was advertising the movie Gangster Squad, but it showed a scene where the gangster shot up a movie theater. And I wanted to see this to see how the events portrayed in the trailer paralleled with the real-life event. And I haven't been able to find it. And as I said, complete scrubbing of YouTube. It was blocked, at least in the United States. Now, other countries, maybe, I know we have listeners in other countries, maybe you can possibly access it, but I couldn't. So if you go and Google the Gangster Squad Hollywood Gossip, you should be able to find a page where you can see the trailer. Do it now if you want to see it, because chances are it may not be there for long. I know we have a few callers on the line. Just hang with us. I'll get to you as quickly as we can. I want to get through some of this other stuff, though. As we said before the break, the shooter entered in through an emergency exit. The question I have is, was there a second shooter? Because we know from various media reports there was a ticket that was purchased, which would imply to me that there was somebody on the inside who opened the door for him and let him into the theater. Now, we know that mind-controlled shooters often have military connections. In this case, Lori Price reported that the shooter's father, actually Robert M. Holmes, authored U.S. Navy military reports. It was also reported by the Daily Mail out of the UK that the shooter listened to one techno song on repeat before shooting. Now, the question I got is, was this his trigger? Was he programmed? Was he an MK Ultra type programmed individual, mind controlled? We know that, in fact, going into it, a lot of these shooters, they exhibit these types of characteristics. And when we talk about, for those new listeners who don't understand